Welcome to another live reaction, week 2 of the spring 2019 season, and today we're taking a look at the second episode of Carole Tuesday, the much hyped anime music show featuring two people from the future, which we don't know much about. And first episode was pretty hype, so without further ado, let's take a look at episode 2. So these people are clearly rotoscoped or something because the motion is too smooth to be normally done. And it reminds me a lot of the animation that we saw in Aku no Hana, which was a similar kind of animated show which had like a lot of rotoscope use, which made for some extremely unique looking visuals. So if you've never heard of that show, go check it out because it's one of the most unique looking shows of all time. So definitely a super hype OP already. We didn't get to see the OP in episode 1 because it just opened into the show, but we get to see it for the first time here, and true to what they've been doing with the rest of the show, they've really just gone ham on this OP as well. So building off of what we learned last episode, that all the hits in this world are made by AI, he's even going so far as to say that the myth that there's warmth or like something special about songs made by humans, even that's a myth. He's like, my machines are so good that you can't even tell the difference. It's indistinguishable, he says, right? And this is really like the conflict at the middle of the show is that we have these two like underdog people going up against the system. And that's like the most interesting part of the show. Is this is really the first show that deals with AI, as I mentioned before. And I'm interested to find out what kind of avenues they're going to explore with the AI that they have, because clearly it seems to be like all encompassing. The AI can pretty much do anything. Like he said, it's indistinguishable, right? So what kind of drama are we going to get when Carole and Tuesday break onto the music scene? Because as we're told at the beginning with the narration is that their meeting is like a meeting of destiny because of the things that they accomplished here on Mars, right? And we get this kind of like cynical music scene versus the more original, like underdog, low-key, grassroots type music scene. So I'm wondering when they're going to pick up on that, because right now we're still establishing setting. It's still only episode 2. We still haven't established all the setting that we need to in order for the story to actually take place. Because at some point they do need to meet that manager guy who's drunk in the bar at some point, right? That's going to be like the inciting incident that sets things off. So I'm expecting this episode is when that's going to happen. Let's see. This is absolutely hilarious that her part-time job is to cry at funerals because there's no one else to cry. But it seems like there are other people sitting there, so it would make sense that they are the ones mourning his death. But this guy's overacting is funny in and of itself. Flying kick! I'm gonna guess she's not getting hired back to this job after that performance. She said she's a runaway and that's why she can't use her black card. Let's also remember that there are people who are like chasing after her to try to find her. I don't know if it's her brother or whoever it is, but there are people looking for her. So eventually that's going to catch up with her too. I see, even in the future, Boba Tea hasn't gone anywhere, right? Good to know. This is like, so this show reminds me so much of like the just normal 20s existence where you're trying to figure out like what you want to do and how you want to go about doing it, right? Because they have this like vague plan to do something, but they don't really have any idea of how they're going to make it work. And really that's like the way that you are in your like early 20s, is you're trying to figure out how to put 2 and 2 together to make something that resembles 4, right? And they're just working this out, and she gets fired from her part-time job, and all of this is just so remarkable or so relatable, and it helps build the world in a way that's way more accessible to me. This is what another thing that I mentioned in the first episode is that the point of the show seems to be like to focus on the small stories in a world where almost everything is different, it seems. There are a lot of things that are very different from the society we know today, but they choose to focus on this relationship between these two girls, and by doing so, it makes the whole world more relatable. Like her having a part-time job where she cries at a funeral is one of those like funny things which you can't really find something that relatable if you were just talking about like how the world works in a grand sense. Because remember, when you looked at the city, it is on Mars. We tend to forget, but the city is on Mars, right? So literally everything is different about it, but somehow it still seems familiar and relatable because of the subject matter, which is a good thing that the show did. Is that her mom? Her mom's running for president? Oh boy, oh boy. That was another masterful cut. So in the previous episode, they had this cut from the high-tech AI studio to the street level where Carole and Tuesday were staying. And in this episode, we have a cut from like this electronic DJ concert with like lights and lasers and like fire effects in the background. And it hard cuts to a traditional concert hall, like again pointing out the contrast between what is the established music industry in this world and what Carole and Tuesday are trying to do, right? They're extremely old school for this world, and they're extreme underdogs too, and the show keeps reminding us of this because when the eventual payoff happens, it's going to be that much better because of all these reminders. I'm sorry, you can't sing. Please don't. If there wasn't for AI, you would be at open mic still. Please don't sing. Just called that the song dentist, right? Stick things in your throat to make you sing. Damn, that was creepy. That wasn't a creepy smile at all. And this guy follows another trope of like the dude who's so into machines that he kind of resembles a machine. We see this a lot, and there's a bunch of shows where there's a dude who's really into machines and he acts like a machine. And it's kind of like a substitute for one of those tech people who were like we see in all these like CSI type shows who just sits in the background and does tech stuff. This guy is like the embodiment of like the artificial type music. And that seems to be like the gist of the show, is that we're taking on artificial music with this show. It seems to be what the show's trying to do. And even this girl who had already signed up to be like an AI produced musician just doesn't like how cold and calculating the machines actually are. And we're only in episode 2, so she's obviously going to get more disillusioned. I'm a cynical piece of crap, so that didn't like make me cry or whatever. And it was the same song from the first episode, but in a new context now, because we get to see like how tiny they are compared to the like vastness of the concert hall around them. That's really the point of the show, as I've been saying, is they're like underdogs, right? And kind of like Yuri on Ice, where the ice skating performances were like these emotional like set pieces that really brought together the rest of the episode. I think the musical performances in this show are kind of going to play that same role, where the whole show is going to be brought together and the musical performances aren't just going to be like music set pieces. They're going to be more like emotional payoffs because of the people who eventually see them. Like today we saw the guy who assists that other AI musician guy see it, and it affected him even though he works with AI music all day, right? And these are two people just starting out with music. It still affected him. So I think we're going to see that like escalate up and up the chain until eventually it's going to be the guy who we just saw, the machine guy at the very top, who hears them, and it's going to affect him, I assume, in the same way. So that's going to be nice. This car looks extremely cool. It only has one giant wheel in the front. Like, do you remember Spy Kids 3D? Anything with one giant wheel in the front is just amazing and futuristic. That's a little bit creepy. It's kind of like you posting a picture of yourself at like a tea shop and then someone you don't know just shows up to try to like stalk you. That's effectively what this guy's doing. I guess it's a little bit of a commentary on social media, though I don't know how much of a commentary it is. And someone mentioned this in the last episode reaction, was that they actually do have an Instagram called Carole Tuesday, and they do actually post pictures to it. So I've been saying this for a while now, but this is a pretty genius way to get social media like traction, is to just put the Instagram in your show, and that's like a just foolproof way to get people to go to it at least once to see the pictures that you post, right? It seems to be working for them both in the show and in real life. Here's Johnny! If this isn't a reference to that, then I don't know what this is a reference to. Typical Shinichiro Watanabe, I guess, making references to classic movies. This guy is super creepy. The context is completely different, but this is as creepy as Jack Nicholson sticking his head through a door. Wow, okay, what a shot. So that was episode 2. And the thing that this show really reminds me of the most might be a show called Terrace House on Netflix, which is like this slice of life, I think, like a Big Brother type show it's set in Japan, mostly dealing with Japanese people. And it's all about like people in their early to mid 20s and they don't really do much. Like, their whole life is kind of like just having a part-time job and just going from like day to day. And a striking part of that show is nothing really changes much for them. From the start of the show to the end of the show, when they're on the show, by the time they leave the house, if you know how Big Brother works, they don't really develop that much. They have a character arc. The editors kind of try to make a character arc for them, but as their station in life doesn't change that much from episode to episode. It's more to do with their like interactions with other people that really makes the show entertaining. And this show kind of reminds me of that, because we have this stable structure of Carole and Tuesday, and they have a house and everything, and I don't think that's going to change much, right? And the differences are going to be in the way that other people treat them based on how their music is being received. And we see the first kind of inciting incident, as I mentioned, where their song goes viral. And normally you see this kind of inciting incident in episode 1, but probably typical Watanabe, he likes to take it more slow. And this show is not as fast paced as you would expect a show with only 11 episodes to be. So I'm assuming that things are going to move pretty fast from here on out, because we're already 2 episodes in and the characters have just made their first performance. If you compare this to another performance-based show like Yuri on Ice, his performances are framed in the frame of reference of competitions, right? But for these people, there's no such thing. So I'm wondering how he's going to escalate the stakes of each performance, because by necessity, you have to do that to keep the story moving. I wonder if they're going to make a new song. What kind of emotional, what kind of emotional inspiration will they have to make that new song? Will it be some kind of like traumatic event? Will Tuesday get eventually caught at some point? I'm really curious where they go from here. So, as I said already, this is one of the most promising shows of the season. The animation is top notch as always. If you're not watching this already, you probably should be. And I'll see you next week when we look at episode 3 for sure, because I'm going to keep watching this show. So thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next episode.